say you're not at Toronto and a film plays, you can go to recent reviews and you could read right after it screens everybody's immediate thoughts. And so I think the attention-driven economy, all these social media apps, everything gets an inherently negative connotation by a lot of people, not everyone. But I think a net positive for festivals, for subtitled cinemas that you were bringing up, are these apps, are these film podcasts where somebody like Sean Fennessy, for The Big Picture, it's a big film podcast, goes to Telluride. And now he's mentioned, like, he'll meet people at Telluride that are like, you told me about this festival I had no idea about, now I'm here, and they're young. And so I think, I'd love the people's thoughts on the attention-driven economy. On one hand, I do think, it's unmistakably shortening attention spans. I don't think that's up for debate at a certain extent. But I do think there is a lot of positives in terms of how it drives people to festivals. So I'd love to hear from the young people, from the people who have been going to festivals for a long time. What is your opinion on how social media can help, get people to see these movies? And social media writ large, all these different elements.
I mean, for me, I think, like, every time I scroll on TikTok, I feel like my, For You page is all about what's your top 4 letterbox, like, they're asking, like, yeah, what's your top 4? Like, go right now. And I'm like, I don't know. But, like, it's constantly, like, evolving. And I think, like, at festivals, like the big ones, Tribeca, and even I was at, I feel like not a lot of people know, but Golden Horse Film Festival. It's in Asia, and like they have letterbox there too, and it's like it's not just in English, and they have a lot of Chinese films who play on there, and all the letterbox reviews are like in a different language, but I actually like those better, and I think they're very interesting because I would get recommendations of films that I actually have never even heard of, but the reviews are so good that I just have to watch them. So and I think like that's such good press for the movies, and just to get word of mouth out there. For like the young people that usually aren't exposed to these movies, because usually we watch on like billboards, like the traditional sort of marketing. But now with like social media and Letterboxd, we're able to get exposure to films that usually aren't like the big films.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think that on one hand, it's sad to see that film review and like newspapers and online magazines has kind of definitely taken a hit. Less things are being written in that side of things, but I think Letterboxd has become huge, and I think it makes kind of reviewing and sharing opinions of film very accessible to kind of everyone, and invites people that even are not self-considered cinephiles to share their opinions with people. And I do also think that having that easy access to see so many other people's reviews, like I know Letterboxd has you can put films on your want to watch list, and even when I was looking earlier at Syrah on Letterboxd, I had like 10 friends that had that on their want to watch list, and it's like none of those people speak the language. It's a foreign film for all of them, but they've just seen other people's reviews on this app, and seen reviews from people that are their peers and their age and kind of relate a lot to them, makes them in turn want to see it. And so I think that was just something that was really exciting to kind of see how many people were excited about seeing that. And I do think that Letterboxd and giving kind of young people people of all ages, but giving them a place to kind of speak directly to, like you can find reviews from people who are your age, who like have some sort of similar interest. I think it's a really interesting way that people have started to find films that they're interested in seeing.
I also think that another component of this, festivals are still rarefied air for a lot of people, for the general population. What's been really interesting, I would say, in the last year, 18 months, are the independent film distributors and the theatrical distributors. So you have the Laemmle Circuit here in LA, you have Film Forum in New York. I have Vidiots in Eagle Rock, and that's a one-off, and that place is packed every weekend, and it's sort of, it's so multi-pronged. As someone who ran worldwide marketing and publicity when I started, trailer, poster, billboards, that was it. And if you could, TV ads, if you had the budget, Now you have to do everything. And TV is probably the least, it almost doesn't happen anymore. But it's so multi-pronged. It's social media. It's these distributors seeing a film at a festival and saying, I want that, which then gives, the sales companies say, oh, there's an audience for this. There's a distributor who wants to put it in their theaters. And so when you see what Laemmle does, they have online campaigns. They reach out to their community. They're targeted, depending on the neighborhood of each Laemmle theater, they have different constituencies. And they really go out to them. But Vidiot's really is east side of LA, and it is packed every week with very, very diverse programming, international films, older films, your repertory cinema, small films that don't have distribution they'll take as a one-off, and that's building an audience, and obviously with colleges there's Occidental right down the road from Vidiot's, so they're reaching out to Occidental. So it's a total churning of where you first see the film, how it's spoken about. It is so much easier with social media to get the message out. And I think because it is a global world now, people are used to seeing a subtitled film, or they'll see a clip of something and they'll go, oh, what's that? And it's there, whereas before there was social media, they didn't see a clip of a French movie or an Italian movie. It didn't happen. And so it's very easy to say, oh, social media is draining everyone's attention span, and. Yeah, in some ways, but it's also broadening the world. And just briefly, as someone in the Academy and in BAFTA, they are definitely doing a lot to promote global outreach, not just by increasing their membership, but by having events in other countries and really promoting other cinema and other talent from around the world.
I agree. I think you cannot target young audiences without social media, but maybe rejecting social media, you have to evolve with the people who are watching your movie. But the anecdote at the TIFF was with my movie there, and there was a theater with, 80 people maybe. And at the end of the movie, during the Q&A, 20, 30 people were on their phone. Texting, and I was I felt like a teacher, like a French teacher. What are you doing on your phone? But when I go and I go out the theater, I just watch my own phone, which is, and I saw 20 reviews on Letterboxd on that screening. So I said, oh, okay. So they were writing their reviews. I said, that's fine. You came to the movie. You made the effort to come. You were moved enough to write something great in few minutes. So I was quite impressed, actually. You're 20, you're from Toronto, or you're going to see a French movie in theater. You have the right to just be on your phone and write your review. So I find it exciting, actually.
Yeah, and I think Bonnie, to your Vidiot's point, that was sort of the point with the festivals, which is it's so community based, and I think American Cinematheque, I've talked to those programmers, and they say they get walk-ups to Los Feliz 3, and they'll know the programmers. They'll say, hey, what are you playing today? And they'll just go see a repertory foreign film because they have a block. They know something's playing tonight, but they won't know what it is until they walk up, and they just live in that general neighborhood. And I think festivals have a bit of a challenge in that way because it is once a year. But I think certain festivals have found ways to have year-round programming. I think TIFF that's a huge part of why so many people in Toronto go to TIFF, is because they're having year-round programming at I don't know if it's the Bell Lightbox anymore. I think it changed the name, but even smaller festivals like True False have a presence in Columbia, Missouri, and so they're engaging with their local college community, I think, year-round. And that's not the only approach, but I do think it helps, I think.
And there's also, when you're talking about, the sort of regional festivals, you have films that, festivals that concentrate on women's films. You have kind of human rights festivals, documentary film festivals. And I think, talking about documentaries, people are seeing subjects from around the world being covered. And so that sort of feeds curiosity, not only about the political stories and the real stories, but then it feeds into wanting to see feature films that take place. The rise of things like I know there's back and forth controversy on, Saudi Arabia and what they're funding both in sports and in art and culture. But, the Red Sea Film Festival has been really fundamental in producing films from filmmakers who didn't have an entree out in that world, let alone getting out into the wider world. And so, I've been seeing a lot more films from the Middle East right now. And a lot of that was, Doha is funding them, Red Sea Film Festival. So we're such an interconnected world. There isn't one solution, when you say, how do we get young people to see foreign films? It's myriad ways. And these regional festivals play into it because there are people who go to see the human rights film. That's all they care about. There are environmental film festivals. So if there's a subject, it's got a festival, And it used to, like when I was doing publicity and marketing for the studio, I'd say, there's too many festivals, because we're getting requests. Like every week your film could be going to a festival, but you lose the paying audience then. Because, distributor says, well, everyone's seen it already. So, but I actually think that's a good thing. The more that people see it, the more, and I think the festivals can either be a starting point or an amplification point.
Yeah, and a lot of these places, the regional festival is where these communities in smaller areas that are cinephiles can see these works on the big screen. It's the only time of the year they can. So it's really important for these local, people in communities to see this stuff.
It's just so funny how this conversation started from talking about people discovering films via Letterboxd. And I remember when I was discovering films, it was IMDb. Like, I grew up in a small town with, no movie theater, and I was just like typing in names of filmmakers and writing down names of films and going to my library and hoping they had them. And it's just like, things are so different now. It's like people are collecting films. And I think that just makes curation so much more important. So the festivals, yes, but it also makes marketing more important, and it makes it more important where people are putting their money and where people are putting their focus in terms of who the film is supposed to be directed to and who they think is going to watch it.
Yeah, I was just daydreaming about the early Netflix days when you used to get the little DVDs and you would get a filmmaker and you get all their films and you would rent 2 DVD and you would go through their entire filmography and then you'd pick a new director that's similar to them and then you would get every DVD.
Like rare things.
Yeah. And their streaming early on was almost like the Criterion Channel. It was all the Criterion movies when they first opened streaming, so you could watch all those movies those ways. I am curious about the push and pull. There is a bit of a film festival is inherently curation driven. There's a voice, or a selection of voices that are saying, these films are important or these films are important to see. And I think, that aspect is, critical, I think, to culture because like you said, there's so much out there, somebody needs to sort of direct you, somebody you trust. And I think on the other hand, with social media and Letterboxd, it's more democratization of voices where everybody's reviewing things and the role of the film critic has become a little bit diminished because everything is a little bit more even playing field. And I guess, does anyone have thoughts on the role of a film festival as a curator, as sort of a tastemaker, and whether that is important, whether that shouldn't exist? Does anyone have thoughts on that?
I mean, I was gonna say that, Letterboxd, I feel like there's sometimes where I would rank a film 5 stars and then my friend would rank it 1, and I'd be like, we are not on the same page. So I feel like, yes, definitely, Letterboxd has just made everyone's opinions, on there, and it's anyone can have a voice. But I feel like the importance of film festivals is that people actually want to go because they have a selected, curated list. And I feel like that's also really important because in, an oversaturated, world where I feel like even in this age, anyone can make a film, and, it's much easier, I feel like, to get distribution and, put your film out there, whether that's a short film or a feature. And so I feel like now, you really want to, have a curated list where it's I want to go just to watch documentaries, or I'm going to go to this film festival to watch French films, and it's more, specialized, but, it's so easy to get lost in this, in this new media world, so.
I'm going to say that festivals are important because a lot of the curators, they know about territories and filmmakers that the general public, it's not online yet, it's not on social media, a film from Senegal or a film, There was a great film last year, French film, Suleiman's Story.
Yeah.
That was an amazing, amazing film. And without a festival bringing it forward, I don't think anyone would have seen the movie. And it's a movie that still stays with me. It was about so many things, and it was about hot button topics of immigration and othering people and French culture to a certain degree and Africans coming to Paris. You know, I mean, it was, and the filmmaking itself was brilliant. The cinematography, the direct, you know. So festival programmers are in touch with people in countries around the world. I mean, I was blessed that I spent most of my 40-year career in the international side of the business. So I was well aware of these films and, you know, festival in Burkina Faso and, you know, things like that. But most people aren't, and most people don't have the means to travel to all those places. So a festival will discover somebody, or someone who's been working for 40 years in their own territory finally has an audience, in, whether it's in North America or in Latin America or in Asia. And so the curation of a festival, I also think that despite the democratization and how great that is, that everyone has an opinion and everyone can make a film, we need experts. We need people who know what they're doing, that have a basis. You know, one of the panels I moderated years ago, someone asked about digital filmmaking. Isn't it great everyone can make a movie? And the producer who was on the panel said, yeah, everyone had a quill pen, but there was only one Shakespeare. So I think in this day and age, there's, you know, everyone has a camera. There is more than one director, but I think it has to be a conversation between people who don't have that knowledge, learning from people who do have that knowledge. And so festivals are kind of like the first stop on the funnel. Yes. To, you know, and they miss things sometimes. Sometimes someone will see a film and say, you know, it's interesting you had that, but I saw a film on this subject that was much better. Oh, where'd you see it? I saw it online, you know. And so it's that dialogue, and they sort of inform each other.
Yeah, I would say I think film festival programming is so important. I was just in Austin for the Austin Film Festival, and so many of the people in the lines, most of the volunteers there are all like UT University students, and a lot of them went to as many films as they could throughout the festival. And talking to people in line, like a lot of people didn't even know really anything about the film. They were going to see it because they trusted that the Austin Film Festival chose good films to put on. And like some of those were international. I saw No Other Choice there, the Parchamuk, and like that theater was completely full. And I was talking to people in line before, and it was 2 university students that were like, we don't know what this movie's about, but we come to Austin Film Festival every year. They always have good picks, and so they keep going. And I think when we talk about festivals, how some of the more like local regional festivals become kind of a community event, I think that the programming is a really important way that it kind of guides people, and they trust the festival as a programmer to choose films that they will enjoy, and it kind of encourages them to go out of the box and see new things.
I think I was really aware that it's really hard to make independent movie exist without a film festival in France. Actually, you need it when you have a small, tiny movie, first feature for myself. So, but it's not enough. I mean, it's not because you have Cannes Film Festival that your movie is gonna be a hit. And Suleiman's Stories is such a good example because it was in Cannes, like 15 other French movies, and this one that the audience after that choose to go to see, you know. So at the end, it's really the audience who decides, you know. And it was completely surprising for all of us that it was like maybe, I don't know, 1 million people going to that tiny movie about an immigrant, you know, in Paris. So you have to be pushed by a festival, but it's not enough. And without, it's really hard, but with, it's not enough. And at the end, the audience decides.
And piggybacking up your point, Bonnie, about discovery in these festivals, is what I don't think a lot of people realize when looking at a festival's programming is there might be this thought of like, this person discovered that they submitted their film to this festival, Sundance, and now they programmed it. It's big. But these festivals have these tracking lists, and they've been like, you know, in these regions, and sometimes they've been tracking these film festivals or these filmmakers for years, and then they make it work, and then they show it, and so there's this institutional support where they're able to kind of, like you said, go into a community and sort of check out the film scene and really see what's happening there and introduce that filmmaker to audiences. But they're really doing a lot of legwork behind the scenes to find these people and bring them to the festival audiences, I think. Can you plot our wonderful panelists? And there is a wine and cheese reception that is happening right now, so let's get a drink and chat festivals. More.